When you do get in calm waters along life's journey, and this is a journey, and we're glad that you did come back here, and it brought you back to us, your family here at University of the Cumberlands. You've got to make good time when the waters are calm. You have to appreciate that. And we do reflect on the religious values that have been set into place here at University of the Cumberlands in convocation, daily prayer, in so many ways, in service to our fellow man. And as our Creech Boswell president, Marcella Mountjoy, said so eloquently last night, one look at the divine servant statue on this campus, which is located just down the hill before you get to the wooden bridge that we all remember crossing near First Baptist Church. That divine servant statue reminds us that the King of Kings would serve Peter by washing his feet. And if you haven't seen that, it will be illuminated tonight. And I ask you to go by and look at that. There's a powerful message there. Service to others is one of the most noble callings we can have. And the following people that we are about to recognize and to induct into the Alumni Hall of Honor this evening have served. And I'm sure many of you have served. Many of you have served in ways that we will not know. But we recognize 5 people this evening for their service. First, and not necessarily in order on your program, I would like to ask David Atwood if you would please come forward, our Young Alumnus Award recipient this evening. David is from Lilburn, Georgia, and is the son of Richard and Judy Atwood. His sister, Katie, is also an alumnus, having graduated in 2010, just earlier this year. Atwood states, "I came to Cumberland because I knew that God was calling me to the university to pursue his calling on my life, which is teaching. And he is doing that today here in Whitley County, where he is a 7th grade math teacher at Whitley Middle School. He is married to Megan, of whom he met on a mission trip, and now serves in our Baptist Campus Ministries program, and she is the director of our Appalachian Ministries program. Megan, would you please stand? David also states, "I have always wanted to be a teacher. I love helping students to realize and reach their full potential. As I grew older, I realized that this want to be a teacher came from God, and that the reason I have this gift was not only to teach a specific content, but also to use my spiritual gifts of teaching and administration to help bring the people I come in contact with to a closer relationship with Christ." That is admirable in anyone's life, not much less a young alum. We congratulate you and welcome you into the Hall of Honor. Thank you, David. Now, would our Alumni Appreciation Award recipient, Teddy R. Bird, please come forward. Teddy. Teddy Bird graduated in 1970, is a lifelong resident of Williamsburg, Kentucky, and the son of Clarence and Ruth Bird. He graduated from Williamsburg City Schools in 1965 and enrolled immediately after here at Cumberland. He majored in art education and minored in biology. He did something that many of us maybe would not be so daring to do, and that is to leave and teach before receiving his degree for 1 year, and then he came back and finished that degree. And ever since I've known him, he's had this trademark smile. He's always been very handy with the hands in a very artistic way, but now in many more ways than art would probably allow. He's touched this campus really from pillar to post, from foundation to the roof. He really put a mark on our campus, and he supports University of the Cumberlands athletics, both as an Indian and as a patriot. And let me just take 1 second to recognize a quote from Ray Lipps. He says to people when he comes to campus, "Welcome to University of the Cumberlands, where all the Indians are patriots." And you represent that. We appreciate what you and your family mean to Williamsburg, and that's why you have been awarded the Alumni Appreciation Award. I know your wife, Cookie, inspires you. She's here with us tonight. If you would stand, please, so we could recognize you. If you are a friend or a family member of Teddy Bird and Cookie, would you please stand so we could recognize you this evening? One last thing I want to say. He comes by my office and we'll talk for a few minutes, and he always has something good to say. And if you ever are touched by anyone in life, it's usually those that have something good to say. And with a great appreciation, we welcome you into the Alumni Hall of Honor. Teddy Bird. Could I have a member of the board come up and serve as a custodian here? I'm afraid somebody's going to step off the stage here, and we wouldn't want that this evening. Okay, moving along. Would Howard and Libby Atkinson, classes of 1971 and 1970, please come forward? As they're walking forward, I will tell you that Howard Atkinson and Libby Sweet Atkinson arrived on the Cumberland College campus, now University of the Cumberlands, in the fall of 1967, where they met and later married on December 20th in 1969. While attending Cumberland, Howard accepted his first pastorate at Carpenter Baptist Church in eastern Kentucky. Now, how many people in this crowd can honestly say they know where Carpenter, Kentucky is? I know Dr. Taylor does. Would you be so kind as to tell them where Carpenter, Kentucky is? Because I had to look it up, and I've been on that road before.
Just head toward Pineville, and you'll see it right before you get there.
Highway 92 for the locals. Well, that was a learning lesson for both of you, wasn't it? And you went on from there, having moved on to Paint Lick Baptist Church in Warsaw, Kentucky. They learned the importance of pastoral ministry to families at that church. From 1973 to 1976, Howard was a minister of education at Bethlehem Baptist Church in Louisville, Kentucky. From 1977 to 1979, Howard was senior pastor at Calvary Baptist Church in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Their first rebuilding experience. From 1981 to 1999, Howard was a church planter and evangelist in Colombia, where he served as pastor in Bogota. It later became the strongest Baptist church in central Colombia and an outreach center. Then from 1999 to 2004, Atkinson was strategy coordinator in eastern Cuba, where the Atkinsons were, where they served as, where they evangelized to the Cubans. Sorry about that. From February of 2008 to October 2008, he served as the Vice President of Strategic Alliance for Connection 1040. From December 2008 to the present, Howard has served as Director of Missions for West Union Baptist Association. So now, over 40 years later, Reverend and Mrs. Atkinson have faithfully served God's people from Carpenter to Cuba. They are pleased to share this great honor with many family and close friends who could be with us this evening, and we would like to recognize you publicly this evening. Would you please stand? You are truly a team in ministry, serving God. You have certainly not let the sun set on you wherever you've been. You've been working hard, and we're glad to have you come back to Cumberland. Carpenter, Cuba, back to Cumberland. And we thank you and welcome you in to the Alumni Hall of Honor. Congratulations, Howard and Libby. Congratulations. Okay, for many of you, this is no stranger. Our distinguished alumnus of the year, the Honorable Harry Gippy Graham, class of 1950. Would you come forward? Harry Gippy Graham, better known to all people as Gippy, was born and raised in Frankfort, Kentucky. After graduating high school in Frankfort, Graham enrolled at then Cumberland College, now University of the Cumberlands, on a basketball scholarship and went on to be named captain of the team. He earned an Associates of Arts degree from Cumberland. He furthered his education at Georgetown College, earning a Bachelor's of Arts while captain of the basketball team there. I believe that's a first. And the only one. That's right. So he received his Master's of Arts degree from the University of Kentucky and earned a rank 1 from Eastern Kentucky University. So with all that education, it only stands clear that he would be a teacher. And with the basketball experience, a coach. Well, today, the gentleman to my right is serving as mayor of Frankfort, Kentucky, where he is proud to serve the people of his hometown. Mayor Graham is blessed with 2 sons and a daughter, 4 grandchildren and 1 great-grandson. He is here today with several family members and his companion and special person in his life, Karen. Would anyone from Gippy's family, especially Karen, would you please stand if you're here tonight to recognize your friend and family member, Gippy Graham? Gippy was also a member of the General Assembly of Kentucky. He knows what service is. You have done this in a distinguished manner throughout your life, and I know you've always represented Cumberland to the best of your ability while you were out there. We appreciate you, and we welcome you in to the Alumni Hall of Honor. Congratulations, Gippy. Thank you. Do you want to say something? Gippy, do you want to say something?
I certainly want to thank the Alumni Board for this honor. Earlier this evening, someone commented about last evening, those who attended the Creech Boswell function, and stated that they hope you hang around long enough to become a member. I've hung around and hung in, so I'm pleased to have done that. In addition to my family here, I have a person here that's very important into my life. He mentioned that I had spent some years as a coach, and I had the great fortune to coached at a little Baptist college in Louisville, no longer exists. It was called Kentucky Southern College. Now the University of Louisville Shelby campus. I had the great privilege of having on that team Mr. John Westbrook, who now serves on the trustees board here at Cumberland College, and his lovely wife, Mary Beth. John is very important in my life, and I dare say I may not be here right now, wasn't for John. But I thank you very much. It's an honor to be a graduate of Cumberland. I know those of us who close to my age know that if it hadn't been from Cumberland, I probably would have never gone to college. And so it started my life, and I'm grateful to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gippy. And now, our alumnus of the year for 2010, my classmate and good friend, Ray Hammonds. Will Ray come forward? Ray Hammonds graduated from Cumberland College, now University of the Cumberlands, in 1990. And he is the son of Jeanette Moran of Louisville, Kentucky, and Homer Ray Hammonds of Corbin, Kentucky. Hammonds spent his early years traveling the world in such places as Thailand, Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Meade, Maryland, and Hanau, Germany, before settling into Potomac High School in Woodbridge, Virginia, where he was graduated in 1984. And I will just tell you, when he came down, we heard about DC this and DC that, so we nicknamed him DC. Played intramurals together, and he talked about playing with some admiral named David Robinson. Does anybody know that name? A great Naval Academy basketball player that had a long pro career.
Yeah, went to high school with me.
Yeah. So we heard about all the life up in D.C. His journey continued to Williamsburg, Kentucky, where he enrolled at Cumberland, and then that was in the fall of '84. That was a growing time on this campus. A lot of football players were coming here to start that team. Ray stuck around. He loved the school. He grew to appreciate the school more and more over the years. And today, not only is he a business owner in Louisville, Kentucky, where he owns Roller Die and Forming, but he stepped up to the call when asked to serve this institution after returning many, many times to campus for homecoming and other special events. And he is now one of your trustees on the University of the Cumberlands board. Ray, we appreciate all your support, and we want to recognize your family that is here with you. So any friends and family of Ray's, would you stand up? I know Greg's here and his daughter. Ray is married to Kelly Hammonds and is the father of two daughters, Ashley, 13, and Paige, 11. His sister and his mother and father could not be here tonight. Right. And we're sorry that they couldn't be with us to celebrate this moment. But Ray, for all of your service to University of the Cumberlands and your support.
You gotta take off the hat.
He says take off the hat.
It's making me laugh at him. I can't take him serious.
Okay, the serious and sober moment. You are our 2010 Alumnus of the Year. Thank you, Ray. Thank you.
I just want to thank the Alumni Association. I appreciate the award. It's always fun to come back to the school. And I told Dave I'd accept if I didn't have to give a speech. So now he tricked me. When he first called me and told me, I thought he was joking. I hung up on him. I said, I'm in a meeting. I got other things to do. So he called me back later on that evening and told me that I was the Alumni of the Year, and I was greatly honored. So thank you guys very much for the award. Thank you.
Okay. Speaking of patriotism and service and certainly leadership, I'm going to leave the honor of introducing our keynote speaker this evening to Dr. Taylor. Dr. Taylor?
I'm really not going to take a lot of time introducing what has become a household name in the higher education community, especially here in the southern states. That's Dr. Betty Lentz Siegel. I'll make 2 observations and then shut up. You can read about her yourself. It's on the inside cover. She is a marvelous ambassador for this institution. I've heard her speak at several national meetings, and I've never heard her speak without mentioning Cumberland College, and I'm very grateful for her being that wonderful ambassador for this institution. Secondly, to somewhat indicate the esteem with which she is held, I won't say which year or which governor, but sometime over the past 30 years, I had an inquiry from the governor of the state of Kentucky about the possibility of interesting Betty in the presidency of the University of Kentucky. I conveyed that to her, and at that time she told me, and I did respond to the governor, that she was happy serving Kennesaw. With that said, Betty.
And she was talking to her nephew, and she said, "Norman, I never had much money in my life, but I deposited memories in my heart. And now that I'm old and blind and half deaf, I draw on those memories, and I'm oh so rich." Aren't we all rich to be in the company of a great leader and who has led this university to great distinction? Please honor our president. Thank you. Oh, so rich. And I must confess, we're rich in friends. Someone has said that friends are the family you choose. We're all members of this family, are we not? I'm reminded of the great sequoia. My husband and I were in the great sequoia forest not long ago. We stood before the tallest tree in the forest. And I'm a mountain-born person, and so I said, I know trees, but this is a real tree. And I asked my guide, how deep are the roots of the sequoia? Do they run all the way to China? And he said, no, the sequoia has shallow roots. The secret of the sequoia, he said, it reaches its roots just under the earth, and they reach across to another sequoia, and they embrace their roots so that both can stand tall. You never see a solitary sequoia in the forest. They can only stand tall in the company of each other. Isn't that the way that we like to think that education unites us, brings us together so that all of us can stand tall? I have a friend that I would like to quote right now. I went to see him just before he died. And he said, Betty, I never had much money in my life, but I deposited memories in my bank. And now that I'm old and blind and half deaf, I deposited memories and I'm oh so rich. Aren't we rich? Aren't we rich to be here? Aren't we rich to be in the presence of leadership that's inspired? If leaders are those who enroll others in their vision, and we have teachers who make a difference, then truly we are blessed. I'm a coal miner's daughter. Yes, indeed. Loretta Lynn and I are coal miner's daughters. She's got all the money and I've got all the education. When I was growing up in Kentucky back when the earth was cooling, education was the window to the world. I'm the first in my family to get a college education. How many of you are too? Raise your hands. Yes! Look at that, Jim. Isn't this amazing? What college at first? I came to Cumberland College, the first in my family to get an education. And I like to tell people that everything that I I seemed to feel good about in my life was the fact that I was treated as a good student. How many of you were the good student? Very good. Now, the rest of you lie because you wouldn't be here tonight if you hadn't been, isn't that true? If you hadn't been good students. So today, I'm going to talk happily to you. On our campus, several years ago, we put a remembrance rock on our campus. It's a 32-ton rock. And I put it there when we begin to think in terms of what we should be fully cognizant of as a university of meaning. And the Remembrance Rock is put there, and it's from Carl Sandburg. And Carl Sandburg said we must go once a year to the Remembrance Rock, and we should ask some questions at that Remembrance Rock. This is our Remembrance Rock tonight. We should ask the question, who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? What is the meaning? How do I matter? And then Stephen Covey gave me this last one. He said you should ask, to what do I testify? Any of you belong to an old regular Baptist church that used to say, anybody want to testify? Well, tonight we testify, do we not? We testify to who we are and where we come from and where we're going and how do we matter and what is the meaning. Then I would like to ask, what is our legacy? What do we give back in our odyssey? And so tonight I want to paint in broad strokes, and I want us to go back in memory as we draw on those memories and put them in our bank and draw on them, and we're oh so rich. I'd like for us to think in terms of those who helped us get to where we are on this rock of remembrance. Where do we come from? What's the meaning? I'd like to think that my mother and my daddy were ones who put me on the rock. My father was a coal miner. My father's father had a third-grade education. And my father came to own the mines that he worked in. That's a wonderful story for me. The triumphs of people who absolutely succeed against the odds. My mother was a wonderful woman from Cumberland, Kentucky. Her family name is Hogg. And I said, does that make us piglets? I don't. But one of the things that I loved about my mother's family, her mother's epitaph reads, Rosa C. Hogg, servant to God, community, and to family. My mother's epitaph reads, a perfect woman, nobly planned to warm, to comfort, and command. My father's epitaph reads, a champion, a man much loved by family and friends who dared to dream and do. What would we want our epitaph to read? I like to think that we're not to be known by our birth date or our death date, but it should be the hyphen. You know that expression, don't you? The hyphen between the birth date and the death date. And at the University at Kennesaw, I used to use a term that we should be working on the hyphen. And one of my students would walk across and say, Dr. Siegel, working on the hyphen. Dr. Siegel, working on the hyphen. The only trouble was he had on a blonde wig and red glasses, so it, when he walked across the stage that time, what does it mean to work on the hyphen? My father's epitaph reads, Carl and Lentz, a man much loved by family and friends who dared to dream and do, and he came to own the mines that he worked in. My mother's epitaph reads, a perfect woman nobly planned to warm, to comfort, and command. My grandmother's epitaph reads, servant to God, community, and to family. my great-grandmothers, she served her country well. And I like to think that those of us here, what will you write on your hyphen? What is your hyphen about? And I want to talk tonight in terms of people who have represented to me those who had within that hyphen a life well led. I want to call attention to my favorite professor at Cumberland College. Will you go back in memory? Who was your favorite professor? My favorite professor was a man named Professor Evans. Does anybody remember Professor Evans? He was an old man when we had him as a class. I remember that I went in to see him just before I left, and I said, Professor Evans, I really want to be like you. And he said, Betty Fay, I don't know what it is about teaching that's so good, but all I know that if I have to die and die I must, all I want to do one day is just walk out of my class, sit down at my desk, prepare the next day's lecture, and just die right there. And I said, I don't believe I want to do it that way, Professor. And it didn't happen to him that way either. He became very, very ill toward the end of his life. Some of you may know that. And I went over to see him just before he died. I walked into his living room where he lay wasted in a hospital bed. I walked over to him and I looked down at that broken body and that broken spirit, but bright blue eyes still shining at me. And I said, Professor Evans, I've come back now to tell you I'm a teacher, all because of you. He said, Betty Fay, did I teach you anything at all? I said, oh, what a teacher you were, Professor Evans. You were wonderful. And he used to teach in an old-fashioned way by calling off a quote from a card in his hand. Do you all remember that? And you had to answer with the rest of the quote. He called off some quote from some long ago lecture, and I couldn't remember it. And he started crying. Said, oh, Betty Fay, nobody ever remembers a thing I said. I said, Professor Evans, please forgive me. I really don't remember what you said, but I remember what you were. And he squeezed my hand, and he said, that ought to be enough. That ought to be enough. What ought to be enough for all of us? What kind of legacy do we want to lead? When I think in terms of Professor Evans, I wish I could say to him, Professor Evans, you were a man who changed my life. I never really got a chance to go back and tell him that so much. But oh, look at the Professor Evans that we've had in our lives at Cumberland College. Look at the leadership that we've had with Jim and with my great uncle, Uncle Lloyd. Look at the teachers who've made such a difference in our lives. And what about our families that have made a difference? Someone has said, whenever you see a turtle on a post, you know it didn't get there by itself. What about the family? When I think in terms of my father and my mother, what they did for us, what they gave to us, an opportunity to be what we're capable of becoming, we have to do that. But I'd like to even go back to our teachers who are trained at colleges like this. When I was in the 4th grade, again, back when the earth was cooling, I had a teacher that taught me some of the principles that I've learned at Cumberland College as well. When I was in the 4th grade, I wanted to make straight A's. Any of you want to make straight A's? And I decided one day that I couldn't make straight A's without cheating. How many of you have ever cheated? Right. The rest of you lie. And I decided to cheat in such a stealthy way, I couldn't spell the word kitchen. My husband swears it's prophetic. We literally have 800, I have 800 cookbooks. I collect them, I don't use them. And my husband was quoted in the paper in Atlanta recently, and he said that in our family, we read great meals. Isn't that? We do. But I'm telling you that because this cheating story I'm telling you about goes right back to this. I wrote the word that I couldn't spell, and the word was kitchen. Kitchen. And I put it in a little piece of paper like this and wrote it up and put it in the top of my lead pencil so that I could cheat in the 4th grade and make another straight 100. Any of you feel that way, that you just had to absolutely make 100 every time? Teacher in this little one-room schoolhouse, seemingly, I was in the 4th grade sitting next to the blackboard over on that side. And the teacher said, boys and girls, time for a spelling test. Everybody get out your Blue Horse spelling tablets. Doesn't that date you? Got out the Blue Horse spelling tablets. We numbered our pages from 1 to 20, and I got ready. She called off 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, 4 words, 11 words, 12 words. I knew it was getting close. She hadn't called off kitchen yet. 15, took out the little piece of paper that I'd put in the top of my lead pencil with the word kitchen on it. Took it off the top of my lead pencil, unrolled that little piece of paper, put the little piece of paper between my fingers like this, and looked up just to make sure that she wasn't looking. And I looked up and she was looking straight at me. And she leaned down and she said, Betty Faye, I see you cheating in this room. See me during recess? I died. I just died. All the children went out to play. I kept sitting 4 seats back next to the bulletin board. Miss Huff saw me, and she called me forward. And I went like a slave to the dungeon. And I walked over to Miss Huff, and I said, Miss Huff, what are you going to do? She said, Betty Faye, don't you know you're smart? I said, I'm not too smart, Miss Huff. I can't spell kitchen. I've got a real problem. She said, Betty Faye, dry your eyes. I said, are you going to call my mother? Don't do it. I said, Betty Faye, dry your eyes. I'm not going to do anything to you. Betty Faye, you're smart. You can do it without cheating. I put my head on my desk and I said, I will never, ever cheat again. She could have ruined me that day, couldn't she? She could have said, boys and girls, I see somebody cheating. This is the one. Let this be a little lesson to us. What you see is a crumpled self-esteem. I'm telling you this story because I think it's highly important for us to know how vulnerable we are as children. One day, my husband and I were in a play in London. We went to see a play called Les Miserables. How many of you have seen the play? And I got up from the play, and my husband said, well, you did it again. This is the 3rd time you've seen this play, and you cry every time. I said, Joel, you don't understand. When I was in the 4th grade, he said, what? What? I said, we had this teacher, and when we were good in Harlan County, Kentucky, in a little coal mining town of Cumberland, Miss Huff would say to us, boys and girls, you've been so good today. I'm going to give you some time off, and I'm going to read to you from your favorite book, Les Miserables. What power there is in a teacher, a Miss Huff, a Professor Evans, who can say to us, to take us miles away from what is the tedium and the poverty in which we grow up, and to make us understand how important it is to be a citizen of the world, to be honorable, to be people of integrity. Warren Buffett says that we must have leaders today who have integrity, inner grit, that kind of rock-solid value. He said if you need energy and integrity, and you need let's see, energy, intelligence. And he says that if you don't have integrity, you better pray that the people around you are dumb and lazy. Integrity. Integrity of the teachers who taught us that. Integrity of the business people that we see as role models. Integrity that we see in our students. And so tonight, painting in broad strokes, thinking in terms of what it means, I want to just end with a story about Professor Evans. When I went to see him when he was dying, I walked over to his house. How many of you remember Professor Evans, though? Really? I went to see him just before he died, and when he told me that ought to be enough, I realized that I had to do something in my own life that ought to be enough. And so today, what I'd like to do is to think in terms of how we leave some kind of influence, as I've talked about before. I have a little object here that I thought you might like to see. This is a shoe that was given to me by a great basketball player called Mutombo. Any of you know that name? Mutombo. He was on my campus, and he gave it to me, signed Mutombo. I took it with me recently to South Africa, where I spoke to the Golden Key Society of South Africa. And I put it on and walked across the stage. I won't do that for you all. But here I was walking across the stage with this big shoe on. And everybody came up to me after. I said, "Isn't that wonderful? They loved my speech." They said, "No, we want to see the shoe." I think what I'm saying today is we have all stories of our mishaps. We have stories of Professor Evans. We could go all the way around this room and talk about the people who have made a difference in our lives. But when I think in terms of those who made a difference in our lives, let it be those who leave footprints on our heart. Footprints on our heart, and we'll never be the same again. So my thanks to you, Jim, for developing a university that has left footprints on our heart. I don't want to thank the professors who've left footprints on our hearts. I want to think of the alumni who leave footprints on our hearts as our buddies. And I want to think of you as benefactors, all who've left footprints on our hearts. Nikos Kazantzakis says it well when he says that I struggle to signal my companions, to say in time a word, a password. Let us unite. Let us hold each other tightly. Let us give human meaning to the superhuman struggle. As graduates of this university, let us do our university proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for making this so beautiful this evening. Okay, I'd like to ask Mary Dole Johnson to come up, and with a little assistance maybe from Bill Little, would you help Mary come forward? As she's coming forward, Mary Dole Johnson graduated from this institution in 1948. She has... You can stand right here, please. Well, these fine folks can look at you. I dare say, and Dr. Taylor could attest to this, no graduate of this institution is returned so often and serve so well to the alumni board and in any capacity asked. It's never, what do you need? It's how much can I give? It means so much to us to be able to recognize Mary Doyle Johnson, a two-time president of the Alumni Board of Directors, only one of two that have ever served as president twice, multiple times on the Alumni Board as a member, and most importantly, she serves every member in this room with her gifts. She really does. She gives so much back to Cumberland in so many ways. Mary, we appreciate you, and tonight, the Alumni Board of Directors have unanimously voted to bestow on you a lifetime membership on the Alumni Board and declare that you are Alumni Board Emeritus. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much, Mary. Now, someone that has also cruised back to Cumberland many times could not be with us tonight. And a long string of attendance annually at homecoming has come to a close this evening. Our good friend and mentor on the Alumni Board, Dick Kinniger, could not be with us tonight due to some health reasons. But also, we are going to bestow on him at a later date a lifetime membership on the Alumni Board and Board Member Emeritus. He's deserving of it. He has served in every alumni auction that there's been, right alongside Ray Lips. And we appreciate Dick Kinniger for what he's done. And Dick, we'll get you a copy of this video tonight, and we want to thank you for your support of University of the Cumberlands. Thank you, Dick. In service. Now, I want to also mention that tonight is a special evening for so many of you that have come back to be recognized for your honored class reunion. And before we recognize our golden anniversary class, if you're a member of the Creech Boswell Club, having graduated 59 or more years ago, would you please stand so we can salute you and recognize you? 49 years. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, for the members of the 1960 class, celebrating their golden reunion anniversary, would you please come forward? Daphne, where would you like them? Out in the lobby. So Daphne will meet you in the lobby, but if you're here from the class of 1960, will you come forward and please state your name and where you live now? Bill Carlisle, he was with us last night. Are you the sole representative? You spoke last night. Come back up and tell them about yourself. Come on.
Well, I played basketball here in 56 through 60. I'm now coach at Walter State Community College. Been there for 33 years. I was assistant coach at Oklahoma State University, assistant coach at East Tennessee State University, high school coach. I'm still coaching, enjoying it. Got a good basketball team, and I should be there. I'm playing hooky to be here, so I should be with my team right now. But it's a joy to be back to Cumberland. There was 3 of us last night. I don't know where they went, but enjoyed being here. It's been great, and Cumberland's great. Thank you.
Tell them how many consecutive winning seasons.
As I say, I've coached 33 years. and we've averaged winning 20 games a year for 33 years. So we had great success and been to the national tournament 5 out of the last 9 years, and hope to go again this year. Thank you.
Congratulations, Viv. You want to go off this way? Okay, now we want to recognize those members who have come back to celebrate their 45th reunion with the members of the class of 1965. Please stand. Do we have anyone from 65? Zafar Roback, Dr. Eric Wake, Alvin Sharp. We've got Alvin's wife. If you all will come forward and tell us your name, and then we will have a picture taken also out in the lobby. Come on. All ready? Yeah, I guess I could bring the mic to you, huh?
I'm Eric Wake. I am chair of the History and Political Science Department. I am in my 44th year here at the University of the Cumberlands.
I'm Zafar Roback, class 65. I'm the father of judo here at Cumberland College because of Dr. Boswell. There's a Zafar 1, a Zafar 2, and a Zafar 3 now. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. I sell motels nationwide. I am the motel man. Thank you.
I am Alvin Sharp. I live here in Williamsburg. My wife, Joanta, we both graduated in '65. We have 2 children. Both of them graduated from Cumberland, and hopefully going to have 3 other grandchildren come to Cumberland. Thank you.
And if both of you would go out and take a picture with the remaining members of your class. Also, moving forward, the group celebrating 40 years since their graduation, the class of 1970. Now, while this group is coming forward, Ray Lips, you're a member of class of 1970. Ray, I'm going to ask, in this room, if you received a call from Ray this week, would you please stand and let us recognize you? Ray made somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 phone calls, I believe, maybe 200. Would one of you come up here and represent the class and maybe share a thought or two? Ray, do you want to do that honor?
Tell you what, we all look so much younger than the rest of these people here. Harold Hubbard's been here through that whole time. How many have we got here from 1970? Aren't we a beautiful group? All my life I've been going out on limbs, and I'm going to go out on one now. We were the best class that ever attended Cumberland College. And if you don't agree with us, if you don't think that's true, just ask one of us. Thank you for honoring us.
Will you go out in the lobby, class of 1970, and let them get a group shot of your 40th reunion? Also, celebrating 35 years, the class of 1975. Do we have any members from the class of 1975? Bill Little? Got a few? Okay. Congratulations. Bill?
I'm Bill Little. I've started my 33rd year of teaching at Clay County High School. My daughter just delivered a brand new grandbaby to me yesterday. 6 pounds, 4 ounces, granddaughter. And I want to honor my mentor tonight, Mr. Harold Hubbard. If you would you stand, please? He's my mentor and my friend when I was at Cumberland.
We are Charles and Clara Reed. We are graduates from here in 1975. We live in Plano, Texas, and we get back as often as we can. Charles and I own Slosky's Delis, and I serve as superintendent in the United Methodist Church. And it's a great honor to be back with all of our friends and our family. We may not know you by name, but if you went through these halls, you are our family.
My name is Don Miracle. I'm a graduate 1975. I've been retired for 10 years. I put 32 years into teaching. I have 6 grandkids and 1 great-grandchild.
Well, 30 years has gone by fast for the class of 1980, and although there's several here, 2 of which are on the alumni board, and I see Jeff Davis raising his hand, and shows me that there's still a lot of spirit left in that class of 80. If you graduated in the class of 1980, will you please stand so that we can recognize you? Wonderful, wonderful. If you will go outside and take a picture with your group now for the, Jeff Davis. He's got something to say.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think we were the best class going through these halls.
Oh. Well, we want to thank you all for coming also, and then we'll move on to the silver anniversary reunion class. That would be the class of 1985. Anyone here from the class of 1985? Okay, anyone else? Class of 1985? All right. Well, we've got to have a representative to speak on that. No, she's got something to say.
My name is Jennifer Jones Wyatt, and Cumberland's given me a lot of stuff, including my husband, who I met here. We've been married for 23 years. And our son is a junior here. He's majoring in music education.
And his name is Jonathan, right? Jonathan. Well, I guess that brings us to 20 years ago, and I know that there are several that have come back. If you're the class of 1990, would you please stand so that we can recognize you? Who wants to do the honors? You want to pass it around that table? Our alumni board member, Melanie Mackey Evans.
Well, the funny thing about me being the one to speak is I actually didn't graduate from here. 1990 was my last year here. But what I want to say is, truly, if I could have a do-over, that would be the one thing I would pick. Biggest mistake of my life. I love Cumberland College, University of the Cumberlands, whatever, where we're Indians or Patriots and all of that good stuff. And I served on Campus Activities Board with every one of the people standing here with us. And I can promise you, we are the best class that has ever come out of Cumberland College, because we served and gave you all things to do while you're here. So Cumberland's wonderful.
Well, I have a lot of fond memories of Cumberland, too. And, of course, I met my wife here, and she's very happy about that. And, and we sure are happy to be back.
I'm Kimmy Malcolm Harris. We graduated in 90, and I've given him 20 of the best years of his life.
I'm Debbie Wesley, class of 90, with my husband Dave and 2 of our children. We have 4 children, and we traveled from near Cleveland, Ohio, about an 8-hour trip for us to come back down, and we're just very happy to be here, and Cumberland is very dear to our hearts.
And as she said, I'm Dave Wesley, and we have a lot of great memories of Cumberland. When we think about this college, we think about the people we met and the experiences that we had, and it is a great, great place, and we're very thankful.
Thank you, David. Well, instead of going back up to the podium, I'll just say, class of 1995. 1995, is there anyone here representing that class? If not, we'll move on to the class in the new millennium, class of 2000. Are there any members? Class of 2000? Feel like a bidder now, Ray. Class of 2005, anyone? Class of 2005. Okay, I know there's a class of 2010 here. Okay, Katie Rieger, my graduate assistant.
My name is Katie Rieger. I just graduated a couple months ago in 2010. My major is elementary education, so hopefully, and I'm doing my master's in English education, so hopefully I'll have a job soon. And this is my friend Megan, who graduated with me.
Hi, I'm Megan Williamson, and as you all know, I just graduated. And yes, hello, Ramona. And she said, "Oh, Megan." I am from Corbin, where I still live and now work at the Corbin Times Tribune, actually as the Williamsburg reporter. So it's great to still be here. So.
Cumberlands. Now, before we hear the closing remarks and the benediction from Dr. Taylor, I would like to ask our new president of the Alumni Board, Rich Pruitt, class of 1980, to come forward and share his staying the course thoughts.
I'm not really prepared to speak, and what I was going to kind of speak towards, Dr. Siegel, I've been in education for 28 years, and you're as good a speaker in regards to thought-provoking as anybody I've ever been around. So thank you very much for being with us this evening. As we get ready to leave, I guess my thoughts are towards that hyphen. And I'd say that most of you are kind of thinking about that. And I think maybe something that might make me a little unique is that I think if I could do that hyphen all over again, I wouldn't change much. I'm pretty content with the course of my life in regards to the way that the University of Cumberland's prepared me. I think my wife and myself will be celebrating our 30th anniversary, and we're coming up on that one. And we met here at Cumberland, and I thank Cumberland every day for giving me such a beautiful woman to go through life with, and I appreciate you. Dr. Siegel, when I was thinking about that hyphen, I started my career here in Williamsburg as a basketball coach. Actually, I started in Harlan County over with a friend of yours from Cumberland, Kentucky. My roommate was from Cumberland, Harry Powell, and we used to spend a lot of nights up in McHenry Field sleeping out turkey hunting back in the day. But, you know, I was thinking about that hyphen, and I was thinking about Cumberland, and then I was thinking about Williamsburg, and I was a basketball coach at Williamsburg, and that's when my love for Mr. and Mrs. Taylor started and developed, because their son was a manager for me, and he was such a great human being to be around. And I know that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I thank you so much for giving me those days. They were wonderful days. There was just so much about that hyphen. I was thinking about Dr. Colgrove. When I was a student here, and I don't think it was the court records, but I'm trying to think back on that. But if I ever made the newspaper, the Whitley Republican, he always cut it out and got my picture laminated and always sent me a note saying that he noticed what I was doing and things like that. And that carried over into my basketball career as a coach, and I thank you for those days. I just always knew that people that made a difference in my life at Cumberland were still watching me even after I was gone. Dr. Hubbard, I think everybody loves him so much, but my wife is one of four, and all four of the girls in that family graduated from Cumberland, and all of them worked for Dr. Hubbard in work studies. So it's just, you know, when you think about that hyphen, it seems like everything comes circle. And welcome back in regards to me coming back, because if I were to volunteer and serve as alumni president for 50 years, I never could repay Cumberland for what it did for me. So Dr. Taylor, thank you very much for that, and I appreciate you very much. My family, I grew up in South Boston. I understand Dr. Siegel must have a son up in Boston. I grew up in South Boston, one of 8. But my father grew up in Goldbug, Kentucky, and he was the son of one of 11. So it's kind of funny. I was raised in a Roman Catholic family, and my wife was raised in a Southern Baptist family, and each one of them produced 4 Cumberland grads. So 4 of my brothers and sisters graduated from Cumberland, and all the 9ers. So there's a lot of us. So, but the hyphen thing will keep me thinking for a long time. And I'd never really thought about it in that regards, but when you start to think about it in that regards, you know, I wonder where we would all be at if it hadn't been for the university. You know, and I wonder how our lives would have been different if we'd matriculated somewhere else and studied somewhere else. I can tell you this, if it hadn't been for Cumberland, I never would have got a college degree. I know I'd be working in construction somewhere, which is what I did prior to coming here. So again, Dr. Taylor, Mrs. Taylor, I love you both very much, and I love the university. And I'll close with one thing. Somebody told me that this was a good story, so bear with me on this one. It's 79, and it's in the winter, it's Christmas time, and back in those days, Dr. Boswell just made it clear that anybody who lived in the residence halls, you had to be out by such and such a time because they were going to turn off the heat, close everything down, shut off the water, all that sort of stuff. So there's 5 of us trying to get to Boston, Massachusetts for Christmas vacation. And we are getting into a car and loading our suitcases in something that doesn't look like it could make the Tennessee line, but as it turned out, it couldn't. It wouldn't even start. So the whole entire college is devoid of human life, and there's 5 of us up there in the parking lot, and it's snowing. There's about 7 or 8 inches of snow on the ground, and Dr. Boswell comes walking up through the parking lot. And he says, "Pruitt, get over here." So, which was a common thing for him to say back in those days. And he said, "Why are you boys still here?" And I said, "Well, we're having a little problem, and the car won't start, and one thing or another." And he said, "You be at my house in 15 minutes. And he said, "And take them boys with you." So we got all of our gear and suitcases out, and honestly, I thought he was going to loan us a van or something like that, and we were all going to drive to Boston. He had a van, and it was waiting on us, and he took us down to Knoxville, and he put us on a plane and flew us all home for Christmas vacation, and then had somebody waiting in the airport for our return trip, and then told all 5 of us that he'd put it on our bill someday. Yeah. He never put it on our bill, Doc, so I guess I'll have to repay you that now that I've told that story. But thank you so much for being with us this evening, and I really hope everybody has a safe trip, and God bless everybody.
I always thought you had a funny Whitley County accent. Now I understand where that came from. And then talking about being Catholic and marrying a Southern Baptist, I may have told some of you this. If I have, just mark it up to my early senility. But this actually happened to me shortly after I became president of this institution. I got a call from a lady, and she said she had sent her daughter down to this fine Southern Baptist institution, and he had found the only Catholic on campus and had married him. What I was supposed to do with that, I do not know. Let us pray. Dear God, we ask that you give understanding to those who learn, grace to those who teach, give wisdom to our trustees and administrators, and traveling mercy to those who have been with us this day. Amen.